Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ, a monthly partnership with Washington County Public Schools. We're here the third Thursday of the month at this time to talk about things in public education, topics, subjects, important matters for the community, for the parents and grandparents, and for the students, and in many cases the staff of Washington County Public Schools. We try to cover as many and as varied a set of topics as we can. Although there are times where we go back to that good, solid old stuff. And here is some solid stuff in the form of Barb Scotto, who's our transportation supervisor for Washington County Public Schools. Barb, welcome.
Hello.
You're here every year at this time because you have a ton of stuff to do prior to the school year. You and your staff have been just busting it from the end of the school year right up until today, right up until the start of the school year. Tell us a little bit just about the checklist of activities that goes on in your office.
I may have said this before, but people say to me, "Oh, you work for the school system, so you're off all summer, right?" And after I pick them back up off the ground, I start to tell them about what we really do in the summer, and it's an amazing transition from the end of school right into preparing for summer school, getting summer school buses on the road. We're running about 70 buses for all of the different summer school programs, and we'll run those right up to the week before school starts this year. We have buses that go out of service, and records need to be sent to MSDE on those, and we have new buses that are coming in, and they have to be inspected and equipped with special things that we put on buses, tagged, ready to go on the road for drivers. This year, we've had an additional task of replacing our communication system on our buses so that we can have constant communication with the drivers. And that's been a pretty labor-intensive process, and we're getting down to the wire on that. But I think it's going to be a good feature that will benefit everyone.
What's the difference? If it's an upgrade, obviously, but what's the difference in what we've had on the buses up to what we had now or will be having?
Well, in the techie sense,
Right.
Everything was working that we had before was working on a 2G network, and now we've gone to a 4G network. Okay. And one of the features that we added in was a push-to-talk feature where we can create groups. So if I need to talk to just all of the buses at Morgansville Elementary, then I can just talk to them and ask them about a student or a situation, or let them know that, traffic is backed up on Salem Avenue or Morgans Avenue. I can throw out all that information in a group with the push of a button rather than trying to call all of those buses. So that's a feature that we're really looking forward to.
You've been at this a little while, so if we go back 5 years, 8 years, when we talk about communication and safety and security as it relates to the drivers and ultimately the students and the motoring public, the families in our communities, how much of a difference, how much safer are we, how much more secure, how much more thorough are we in giving drivers and staff that level of communication that we haven't had before?
I really appreciate you asking that question, because just to become a bus driver, it requires a lot of certification process. You have to train, you have to go through a physical, you have to be a participant in a drug and alcohol testing program, you have to have a good driving record to start, and then you have to maintain it. Not only on the bus or with your commercial driver's license, but in your personal car. The difference in what I think has provided a higher level of security and safety for kids is our GPS systems in buses that we've put in over the years, our video surveillance cameras that really helps us know exactly what's going on a bus. It's an incredible tool that assists parents, administrators, drivers, and students. The routing software that we have really fully implemented, it provides us with amazing data, and we can track and account for every student and where they live and where they get on a bus and run reports for drivers, and it gives them more information. They're not going out there with just a route description and hope that they pick up the right students. We've got that nailed down to very specific students assigned to buses. We implemented a few years ago a new policy that included something that we're going to talk about in a minute, and that's that transportation location change form. I think that's a safety and security document for us and for parents so that we know exactly who we're going to be picking up and where we're going to be dropping them off. In the past, for years, it was a matter of writing notes and just people being able to change their mind from week to week or day to day where their students went. And we've nailed that down to it being very consistent from week to week and only having a specific number of stops to be able to use.
I know we took, and it would have happened no matter where we would have tightened up. Anybody in a similar situation would have tightened up the practice and the policy related to the number of stops for a particular family and a particular student or set of students. But I can't imagine, and I don't know that the general public, including parents, really understand what it was like before if you truly could hand in a note at the start of a day saying, oh, hey, by the by, my child or my children should be picked up here, here, and here today. And it's going to be different tomorrow, and it's going to be different on Friday. It's going to be different next Tuesday. That I know there was some backlash because folks had routines and they liked the flexibility of it, but boy, it's unbelievable the amount of consistency that's been much more of a factor for you and yours in the department. And it does lend itself to a much safer, much more secure, again, much more consistent approach, to picking up and dropping off the kids.
It certainly does. It not only benefits our department as far as being able to know where bus drivers need to drop off students. It also benefits, a regular driver can be on the route, 15, 20 days, and then all of a sudden not be able to be on the job, and then we have a substitute in the driver's seat. That documentation can inform that substitute where students are supposed to be. If they have a question, they can refer to that, and it will give them the information that they need. It also benefits the schools. The schools have a much more organized set of information to be able to know where to send kids to buses instead of trying to manage a whole bunch of different notes. I truly believe it benefits parents, especially when you get to the high school age students that might, I'm not saying they do, but hypothetically write a note and sign their name as though it's a parent, and it might just slip by. So it prevents those kinds of things from happening too, because we just do not accept notes for a change in transportation.
Let's do the form, because we do it every year, and we really emphasize this. We release the information, remind everybody in many different ways. At this year, prior to this time, up until the time where it's really crunch time in your department and with the start of the school year approaching. But in very simple terms, describe the particulars to the transportation location change form. Fondly, as we've referred to it, the TLC.
Yes, the TLC. First off, we typically process about 1,500 of these a year. And at this time, and we're only 3 weeks out from school, we only have several hundred on file. That means we are really looking at a crunch. So if parents are familiar with this form and they use this form and they've used it in the past, you have to complete a new one every year, and we need to get that form in as quickly as possible. But let me tell you about what that form is for. The Transportation Location Change Form is a document that needs to be completed if your child is going to go to and from school on the bus from any location other than their home address. Even if you live in a neighborhood and your daughter or son are going to go down to the corner bus stop, that's the stop and the bus route associated with your home address. But if your child has to go to a care provider or is going to go to grandma's house, anything like that, anything different than your home address, pick up or drop off, that form needs to be completed. So if you're just going to use the bus stop assigned to your home address, go down to the local corner and get on with all the other students, the form is not required, only if it's something different. You can have up to 2 pickup locations in the morning and 2 drop-off locations in the afternoon. The key thing to us being successful with this is that the schedule has to be consistent from week to week. We can't do, but on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and this week it's here and that week it's there, but it's going to change every other month on the, Groundhog Day or something. It has to be consistent from week to week.
What if somebody's a family's situation, due to a job change, due to some other circumstances? What if situations and circumstances do truly change with some level of either drama, there's some major impact on the schedule at the household? How do you accommodate that? If they come in and say, listen, everything just changed, maybe a death in the family, it could be anything.
Well, there are emergency circumstances. Moms that are having new babies, suddenly they're in labor, they're at the hospital, and they're not going to be there to get. We get those kinds of calls from the school, and we make accommodations for emergency situations. We also can make accommodations if people are going to be out of town for a week on a business trip, and they have to change for a week, but they have to complete that form to do it. And then they have to complete a second form to put it back to the original situation, when they return. So if jobs change, schedules change, it's a matter of submitting a new form, and we'll get the assignments remade and out to you. And we really do try to process these forms as quickly as possible. And during the school year, once everything is settled in and they just trickle in here and there, they're a 1 to 3 day turnaround. At this time of the year,
right.
Here's an important date for everybody. If your form is not in our department by August 4th, we cannot guarantee that service will be in place on August 17th when school starts. We will process all forms in the order that they're received. So please, just stop everything you're doing right now and think about where your kids need to get on the bus and off the bus, and get online on our website, go to the transportation page, or just look at the header on the home page for WCPS. And you'll be able to get connected directly to a fill-in transportation location change form.
If by chance somebody just started using the form last year, submitted the information, and it worked fine, they worked with you and yours just fine with that form. If their situation again does not involve the stop assigned to their home address, that even if everything else is equal to last year, where they're going to go to those 2 different stops and drop-off points, they still have to do the form. You guys aren't hanging on to a form from the previous year. I can't call you and say, hey, what last year, same as this year.
No,
okay.
we need new confirmation that there is a location other than your home address that your child is going to be transported. Even, I'll give you an example. There's a daycare or a care place in Boonesboro. They have a ton of children go to their location, and the same children go there year after year after year. We receive those forms no matter what. They go. The child might go there from 1st grade through 5th grade,
right.
But we need that form every single year.
Every year, okay. I'm talking with Barb Scotto, who's our Supervisor of Transportation for Washington County Public Schools. This is Lunchtime Live. We're here on WJEJ, the 3rd Thursday each month at this time. And we are truly now starting to close in. And I realize it kind of hits hard to folks because they want summer to be longer and more comfy and more relaxing. But in practical terms, August 17th will be here in pretty short order. And we want to at least get information in your hands so you're prepared and there isn't that angst, not only at your place but in transportation and a number of other departments as we get the school year started. What do you do about a brand new school coming online? How do you fit that into the route schedule and everything else? How does that work to get everything set up for a new school from your angle?
Well, our routing software certainly helps with that. And this year, Jonathan Hager Elementary will open its doors to students. And as a result of that school being built and other pieces of redistricting happening across the county, and with the closing of Winter Street and Conococheague, there was a lot of movement. And with the software, it changes our boundary lines pretty easily, and it drops the students where they need to be, and we can create a planning database, and we were able to plan those routes across the board well in advance of school closing. Now, people will say, well, if you were able to do that, then are routes available for us to access right now? And they're not quite there, because there's more to it than just that piece. We are constantly getting in address changes and pre-K students, just information that constantly tweaks the routes, and we want to get as close as we can to the real deal and accurate times when we launch that information out on our website. So on August 8th, all school bus routes will be available through our e-link. And again, go to the website, WCPS website, and follow the prompts, and you can get right to the e-link where you can put in your address and access your school bus information. The preparation it's labor intensive, and yet it's planned so far in advance that it's given us a good opportunity to really scrutinize a lot of school bus routes and try to become as efficient as we possibly can. So we're looking forward to the school year opening, actually, to see our successes, with all the work that we've done. You asked me a while ago, Will, about safety and security and the things that we do with drivers, and there's so much that I could probably spend the rest of the afternoon here. But one of the other things that we do that I think is important to share is we have ongoing in-service training for our school bus drivers. It's not just getting that license. It's also constantly learning more about current laws, changes in Code of Maryland regulation that pertains to drivers and them keeping their certification. It's also about student management and being able to communicate effectively with parents. So we are constantly developing training for them that enhances their skills so that they are successful every day working with students, working with parents, school administrators, and just all the stakeholders in general.
It's not the easiest job by any stretch, and it's also a pretty big challenge for the department to find folks who are going to come up to the level of expectation, both from a professional standpoint, from a scheduling standpoint, from the ability to get along with the kids and the families, and as a good employee. That's we've gone any number of times back to the needed effort to try to attract quality candidates for bus driver positions. But I tell you what, we're not just going to take anybody. I mean, there are certainly there are requirements both from a scheduling standpoint and from many other corners. So we're not just winging it, but it also creates a challenge where we can't just take anybody on.
This is my opportunity to recruit.
It wasn't intended as just a shameless setup for an employee recruiting drive here, but go ahead.
But we are actively recruiting people to become school bus drivers. We provide all the training at no cost to the individual. We are a self-test site for MVA for school bus drivers. That's it, nothing else. And there's some laws out there that help us not just train people to go drive a dump truck. So we're focused on training school bus drivers. It's $17 an hour to become a substitute bus driver. Retirees, moms that are home that want to be on the same schedule with their students. It is a great opportunity. We have more recently hired a lot more retirees than in the past, and these folks are loving what they do. I mean, there's opportunities to do field trips with students and to make that kind of your primary, goal for driving. But we see a lot of reward, that's being felt by these groups of people that are coming in and they're working with students, they're having a good time. they feel like they're kind of giving back. So it is a challenging job. I will not take anything away from that. But it's also a very rewarding job. And I will say, we scrutinize pretty hard, and we have very high expectations. We have an amazing population of drivers and attendants and crossing guards. I can't forget those crossing guards. We have crossing guards that have been on their corners for 37 years, and some even more. So the people that we work with on a daily basis are committed, and they want to work with kids, and they come to work every day trying to do their best and doing the right thing and being safe.
Whose jurisdiction is it? Is it actually part of the training to involve the drivers and all other positions under your jurisdiction as it relates to, for instance, just basically student discipline? You know, I always wonder, and I'm always in awe of a bus driver who can. If you have a bus full of elementary kids, it's not unlike the classroom, but it's just happens to be traveling 45 miles an hour. Who trains them? How does that work? How are the drivers prepared and then refreshed when it comes to the interactions and possibly needed actions to take when it involves the students on the bus?
It starts in our classroom training. I think some people come to the classroom with just that natural ability to communicate with students and adults alike, and they have the ability to just form that connection. Other people do have to work a little harder at it, but we provide as much training as we possibly can on how to talk to students, how to listen to students, how to be on your toes and be looking into the face of every child as they get on the bus. Start to read, their body language. If they're happy, 6 weeks in a row and they're just bouncing around and looking great, but all of a sudden, they get on the bus one day with their head hung down, something changed, so your radar goes up and you need to pay a little bit more attention. Learning that children want respect from the adults in their life, but letting the children know that they need to give respect as well. We do a lot of role playing in our classroom training. We create some pretty bizarre scenarios that could possibly happen out on a bus, and we have the drivers and some of our veteran folks and our trainers play that role and describe how they would respond. With the in-service training, we are constantly bringing in outside sources, anybody within our school system, school principals that have very challenging school populations that have developed student discipline programs in their schools. We bring them in to talk with the drivers, to really give them the encouragement and the tools that they need to be successful and to create a positive environment. My assistant supervisors have been working very closely with school administration to create some very specific behavior programs, especially elementary students who are just busy. They're, and their attention spans are a lot less. So you might have to tell them, please sit down 15 times during one bus ride. And after, 180 days of telling students to sit down 15 times 50, there might be a little sense of frustration on the driver's part. But I think we give them a lot of tools, and we use all the resources that we can possibly get our hands on to continue to give them methods to manage student behavior.
What do you do about special needs kids who ride the buses? How does it? Well, I mean, how do you? What are the accommodations? Not every bus is equipped.
Not every bus is equipped, but we include as many special needs students as possible along our regular routes. There are so many great programs in Washington County for special needs students, and those students can hop on the bus along with their peers and go to their home schools. And a lot of times we may put an attendant on that bus so that there's a little extra attention given to that population of students. My special needs assistant supervisor goes above and beyond to know what needs students have and to meet those needs in terms of special equipment, wheelchairs, spaces on the bus, how they're tied down. Our special needs driver and attendant population get specific training ongoing training, both in first aid and in special equipment and how to handle students with the variety of disabilities. It's a big program, and there are a lot of services provided to the students, and we do everything within our power to make sure that we are transporting them safely with full knowledge of what their needs are and meeting those needs.
My guess is that the level of communication with families who are sending special needs kids onto the bus and onto school and getting them off the bus at the end of the day are probably even sharper about communicating with you guys, needs, issues as they prior to the school year, as they arise during the school year.
In a lot of cases, the bus driver and the attendant become part of that student's family.
Right.
And there is a lot of one-on-one communication. And the drivers really work hard to build those relationships because they need to understand that if something is quirky on the bus and there's, a concern that they have to address, the best resource for them is to go to the parent and say, how do you handle this at home? What triggers this, and what do you do to diffuse it? And that kind of communication makes our job a lot easier.
If I'm a bus driver dropping a particular child off who may have been a bit of a challenge, either that day or over a series of days, is it my job when that parent or guardian picks the child up at a stop to say, Hey, Mrs. Jones, Jimmy's been a little bit of a challenge. Where is the line drawn for the driver?
That's not always the best option.
Okay.
Sometimes it depends. That's a case-by-case situation. Sometimes it's just better for them to record it, document, that from day to day. We ask our drivers to keep a log on their bus. Mm-hmm. And when there's an incident or a certain behavior that arises, log it, say what the student did, what you did, what you asked them to do, whether they complied or how their behavior continued. And by doing that and then kind of building a little bit of a diary, then it may reach the point where that needs to be, shared with the school, someone at the school. It may not necessarily be a referral, but it could end up in a referral if it's a behavior that it interferes with the safety of other students.
Let me just follow up that thought very quickly, and then a couple of quick things before we go today. If anybody has a question or a concern, a specific issue, a change, or, and I'll urge it too, not that people have to go out of the way, typically they don't, but if you have praise or have a good story about a bus driver, please communicate with the department. Please do that, because you guys get all the bad news, and I'm guessing every now and then you get a call, Miss Sally on bus 999 was just the best today. I guess you get those now and then, but more often than not, it's the other side of the coin.
It is, and that's kind of the nature of the beast.
Sure.
Having done this for almost 34 years now, you become kind of accustomed to that mindset. It's a very sensitive position for parents to give up their children to this person, that they don't know, especially kindergartners and pre-K students, and put them on that big bus and, try to believe that they're going to be safe. And I guess I would say that I have to repeat, we have an amazing group of people who really want to provide a very safe and a very physically and emotionally safe environment for students to get to school. We believe that if parents communicate really well with the drivers and with the schools, and if they have a concern, call our department. Call our department, talk to the area supervisor, call and talk directly to me. Let's try to figure out what the problem is, and we will definitely reach a solution.
I believe we have a great relationship with local law enforcement and our communities where, and certainly in the recent past, it seems as if there's been much more attention and much more of a sensitivity toward the community being safer when it comes to travel around schools and certainly around buses. Would you agree with that?
I think everybody's on alert, and they're paying attention to what's going on in the neighborhoods. And that's one of the other things that we train drivers to do. You're on that route every day. you are making the same stops every day. Know what it looks like at your bus stops. Know what parents are there, or care providers are there, what cars are there in the bad weather. Pay attention to those things and take notice of something that's strikingly different all of a sudden. And our drivers call us on a regular basis and inform us that there's this van that's just been hanging around at the bus stop for the last couple of days, and I've not seen it before. We call our school resource officers and our safety and security officer, and they get right on it. They send sheriff's deputies, city police, resource officers out to the school bus stops and pay close attention. And our drivers have been able to provide information, and the outcome can be any number of things, but they are on their toes. And we tell them that if there is something really strange, or if you think that there's a parent who for some reason is feeling hostile towards another student on the bus or towards you as the driver, and they're angry and they look like they're approaching the bus, close the doors, move on.
Let's finish up with, if you can do a quick 60 seconds, let's redo the transportation location change form again so folks know.
Transportation location change form. If your child is going to go to a care provider or a location, grandma's house, any place other than your home and the stop associated with that, then that transportation location change form needs to be completed. Even if they're going to come home in the afternoon but be at a care provider in the morning, that transportation form is needed. If you're filling it out and you're confused, you have a question about it, please call your school. They are very well versed on the completion of the form and what it needs to say. Otherwise, get it off of the website. It's a fill-in form. Email it into us, fax it into us, just get it to us as quickly as possible. Fax is the best way, or scanned and via email is the quickest way for us to receive it.
And do it today.
Today, please.
I'm going to create some drama. They're due by the end of the business day today. I mean, we give August 4th, but I think that's a little too much. We need folks to act. Barb, it's always a pleasure, and it's always a valuable show, both from the timing and from the content that we do every summer. So good luck the rest of the summer in these remaining weeks. I know it's busy in there, but you guys are great. The staff works hard, and they have the right things. The goal is what we've talked about every time you're on, which is the safety and security of getting those kids to and from school. Very good. Thank you very much. Barb Scotto is our supervisor.
Thank you all for listening.
Our supervisor of transportation for Washington County Public Schools. We're here the third Thursday of the month at this time, a partnership with the public school system and WJEJ.